We know that parents often want the best for their children. However, we are not talking about these cases in the motion. In this motion, we are talking about cases where the parent wants is refusing a procedure that would save a child's life, or even is just a procedure that will help the child's lot. Thus, in these cases where a parent's interest conflicts with the interest that the child's or medical interest in saving people's lives, we will let the doctor choose. Doctors would listen to why the parents would choose to refuse certain procedures and compare it to the harms of not doing the procedure to make a decision. Our stance is simple. Parents are still consulted and respected, but when conflict arises, the doctor's evidence-based recommendation becomes more respected. This ensures a child's right to life and health is protected over parental ideology. Moving on to our main constructives, the first argument is about how the child's best interest should be guided by evidence, not belief. Parents love their children, but their decisions are often shaped by fear, culture, or religion more rather than scientific reasoning. Doctors, by contrast, are trained to make decisions based on clinical evidence, probabilities of success, and professional ethics. The key question is not who loves a child more, but who is more capable of identifying what keeps that child healthy and alive. Doctors' decisions are built on diagnostic reasoning, evaluating symptoms, assessing medical history, interpreting lab results, and weighing treatment risks. This process produces a conclusion that reflects the highest possible chance of recovery and safety for the child. Their reasoning is guided by the ethical duty to act in the patient's best interest and the duty to avoid the harm. Parents, however, often rely on emotional reasoning. A parent might refuse chemotherapy because they cannot bear to see their child in pain, or deny vaccination after reading false information online. Some reject blood transfusions for religious reasons too. These are emotionally understandable but medically dangerous. In all these cases, parents' intentions are pure, but the reasoning process lacks access to medical evidence, making their decision systematically less likely to protect the child's well-being. By giving doctors the final say, we are not silencing parents, we are creating a hierarchy of decision making where evidence overrides beliefs when they conflict. The doctor must still explain and justify the recommendation to the parents only if disagreement persists does the doctor's professional judgment prevail. This mechanism safeguards children from preventable harm such as unscientifically or emotionally driven refusal of care, which can lead to severe impact such as avoidable deaths and more disabilities and medical harms to the child. And thus we believe that doctors should have a hierarchy in decision making. Moving on to our second argument, doctors are more accountable and regulated than parents. Medical professionals operate under strict legal and ethical oversight. Parents, however, even if they are loving, do not. If we must trust one group with final authority, it should be the ones whose decisions are transparent, reviewable, and subject to accountability. Every significant medical intervention follows a structured process of professional responsibility. A doctor's decision must be recorded in notes, supported by test results, and if contested, reviewed by ethical ethics committees or the legal system. There are systematic safeguards such as peer-reviewed licensing boards that make these people accountable. This means that any type of error or abuse can be investigated and corrected. Parents, by contrast, make the decisions privately without much oversight. Their decisions are shaped by personal belief systems and emotional stress, not by consistent standards. A parent can legally refuse treatment for irrational reasons, fear of side effects, cultural taboos, or internet conspiracy theories, and no immediate institution checks that decision until the child is already harmed. Under our model, the chain of accountability shifts towards professionals who are trained, regulated, and ethically bound to justify every decision. If a doctor chooses a treatment, that choice must be defensible through evidence. And if it harms the child, the doctor can be sued in legal courts. In contrast, when a parent makes a harmful decision, these accountability never exists. Thus, giving the decision to a doctor can severely prevent avoidable deaths and avoidable harms to the child. Because of these reasons, we're proud to propose.
Judge government doesn't realize the importance of parental management in medical decisions, especially for minors. So three things in my speech: rebuttals, reframing, and our side's two arguments. So starting off with rebuttals, they have mentioned how the doctor's recommendation should be more respected. And while doctor's recommendations are valuable, respect alone does not make them the final authority. Medical advice must be balanced with the child's emotional needs, family values, and long-term welfare overall. And these are things only parents fully understand. And blindly following doctors can risk alienating the family and harming the child's overall well-being and consent. And also, they've mentioned evidence over belief. It's not the only factor of a child's care. Parents combine medical advice with the knowledge of their children's emotional state, personal beliefs, and family values that are things that evidence alone cannot be capturing. And ignoring this risks harming the child in ways that data cannot measure. We don't want to force them to oppose family values because the doctor just said so. And they also mentioned about how the doctors are strict legal and ethical oversight, and doctors, even when verified, cannot be replacing the parents' unique understanding of what suits the child best and what is suitable for the family themselves. Okay, so this debate is not about whether medical professionals are trained and capable of providing treatment, because we already know that. It's about whether giving them the final say over minors' decisions is the right approach, and whether it respects the rights, values, and well-being of the child within their family context. And when we say final say, we mean the ultimate authority to decide when there's a disagreement or uncertainty about treatment, including non-emergency intervention, consent to procedures that may have physical or emotional consequences, and balancing medical advice with the family's values, beliefs, or maturity. And in this motion, individuals are under 18 like a child or teenager, and note that our burden isn't about skill of medical professionals, but that the final decision-making power should show first the child's best interest in the context of their family and upbringing, and second the parents' legal and moral responsibility to guide their child's care. And also, we're not going to disregard doctoral recommendations. We're going to consider them, but we just value family autonomy more due to the reasons we'll present. And therefore, the metric of this debate is based on the principle that the decision-making over minors' health should respect both expert medical advice and the family's authority and understanding of the child. If parents are sidelined entirely, the care risks being detached from the child's personal needs, and therefore, even if the proposition argues for transferring final authority to doctors, they must explain why removing parental involvement is fair when families are integral to child's overall welfare. And first argument on family autonomy: parents, not medical professionals, should have the final say in their child's medical treatment because families are the fundamental unit responsible for the child's overall well-being.
Yo,
And
ma'am.
no, thank you. Legally and morally accountable for the child, so they're entrusted to guide their child's upbringing and decisions, balancing their long-term welfare, ethical considerations, family values, and etc. Removing this authority undermines the family's role and can break down trust between the parent-child relationship. And also, since parents have the autonomy to reject and allow a medical procedure, they should be able to manage the issue and decide what they believe is best, even with doctoral advice.
Ma'am.
And no, thank you. If a parent refuses non-emergency elective procedure for their child based on family values, even though doctors recommend the procedure, then it's fine because it protects the child from unnecessary interventions. It respects their long-term emotional and moral development. And the impact, respecting parental authority is important because medical decisions don't happen in a vacuum. A child's health is intertwined with their family environment, rules, values, and emotional support. When parents are involved, decisions are holistic, ethical, and more sustainable. So now moving on to second argument on emotional and contextual understanding of the child. So parents should have the final say because they understand their child's personality, fears, and emotional needs better than the medical professionals. So medical decisions impact not only physical health, but also emotional and social well-being. So parents know how their child reacts to stress, pain, or medical interventions that can tailor care to reduce trauma and improve compliance. So doctors lack this nuanced daily insight as they suggest procedures based on what works best. So a child may panic during a routine procedure. Parents can prepare and comfort the child, choose the timing, approach, or incentives to make the treatment manageable. A doctor alone might proceed based on protocol, causing fear or anxiety or mistrust, and having the parents manage partly of these decisions of how processes will be carried out or what type of process will be carried out really matters for the child to resist less and make it more suitable for them. And it's also important because a child's medical care isn't just about treating their body, it also affects their emotional well-being and relationship with healthcare. Without parental involvement, the child may experience fear, anxiety, or emotional trauma during the treatment, and they can refuse or resist future medical care, reducing compliance and effectiveness in further things. And now, due to these reasons, I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.
Through our beliefs, a lot of parents deeply care for their children and always want the best outcome. Medical decisions ultimately rest with those who have the expertise to ensure them. Doctors dedicate years of study and practice to understand complex treatments, risks, and long-term consequences, not because they lack compassion, but because their entire profession is built around preserving life and health. Both parents and doctors share the same goal, the well-being of the child. But when emotion and expertise come into conflict, it is right and justified to give the final authority to doctors whose decisions are grounded in medical evidence, not emotional pressure. This debate isn't about taking love away from parents. It's about preventing the love of unintentionally causing harm. In a world where both sides want to protect children, also ensures that life and death choices are made by those best equipped to understand them. That's why it's so proud to propose. Before I move on to anything else, a few clarifications. First of all, our policy only applies to serious or life-threatening medical decisions or disagreement exists between parents and doctors. In cases like routine checkups, vaccinations, or minor treatments, parental consent remains the norm. What happens on our side is when the conflict rises, for example, parents refuse a necessary blood transfusion or life-saving surgery, doctors have the final authority to proceed in the child's best medical interest. Second of all, this debate is not about undermining parental love or values. It's about ensuring that decisions about a child's health are guided by objective medical expertise rather than emotional or cultural bias. Parents still play a vital role in providing comfort, emotional care, and understanding. The final authority rests with the doctors only because their judgment is grounded in evidence, ethics, and years of training designed to protect life. Moving on to my bottles. There's I talked about how balance is needed, and we can't move parents from the equation. While doctors might seem distant, our model still keeps parents involved through open communication and consultation. Doctors only make the final call when disagreements threaten a child's safety. This doesn't alienate families. It ensures that compassion and expertise work together so decisions are both caring and medically sound. Second of all, the first argument was about how there's family autonomy. Family autonomy matters, but it isn't absolute, especially when a child's life or long-term health is at risk. Parents should guide values and emotional support, but autonomy cannot override professional duty or scientific evidence. Our model still respects family participation through communication and consultation. But the only shift is that when conflict arises, the doctor's medical judgment takes precedence to protect the child's welfare. This doesn't destroy family autonomy, and ensures it operates within safe medical limits that keep children alive and well cared for. Their second argument was about how parents understand their children more. The emotional understanding that parents have of their child is deeply important, and our society fully recognizes that. Parents know their child's fears, comfort, and personality better than anyone else. That emotional insight is essential in treatment, but emotional understanding alone cannot determine medical safety or success. This model keeps parents actively involved in discussions and emotional care while allowing doctors who understand the medical risk to make the final decision when lives are at stake. This balance ensures that child receives both the compassion of family and the protection of medical expertise. We went to the last argument of our team also reduces emotional burden and moral guilt on parents. Parents naturally want what's best for their children, but that love also comes at an immense emotional weight. When families face serious medical decisions, whether to approve of risky surgery or end life support or pursue an experimental treatment, they are forced to carry unbearable guilt and responsibility. Also believes that doctors and not parents should hold final authority in such moments because this not only protects the child's welfare but also shields parents from devastating emotional trauma. In crises, parents are not simply decision makers, they're human beings overwhelmed by fear, grief, and hope. Imagine being told your child has only a 20% chance of survival if you approve of very painful treatment, or that continuing life support might only prolong suffering. Even with full information, parents cannot make those choices objectively. The emotional bond they have with their child distorts their reasoning, not because they're ignorant, but because they care too deeply. By giving doctors the final authority, we transfer that impossible moral burden to professionals trained to handle it. Doctors are not immune to compassion. They simply have the experience of detachment to analyze evidence and probabilities that parents cannot. They operate under medical ethics, professional guidance, and peer consultation, ensuring decisions are guided by the best outcomes rather than emotional panic. Their doctors also make those choices collectively, often through medical boards or ethic committees, which spread accountability and prevents personal bias. With doctors hold final authority, parents families can focus on what truly matters, support and comforting their child. Parents can grieve, hope, or heal without being haunted by the thought, did I make the wrong choice? This approach leads to healthier family relationships and emotional recovery after medical crises. It also strengthens trust between families and hospitals, showing that medicine serves compassion, not comfort. And that is why our side is so happy to propose. Thank you.
The government loses from the get-go of the debate when they say that just clinical decisions are better, but they don't back it up. It's subjective of what the best decision is for the children, and that's what the parents decide at the end of the day. Clarification said, the debate is not about best decision via emotionally driven ones. This debate is about the subjectivity of decisions and what actually happens, what actually is the best decision for the person, and what is
the best decision. We as the opposing side tell you that the best decision is where the parents choose because decisions are the best decision for these children are with different cases are really subjective at the end of the day, and the best decision might be to align with their values, or the best decision might be to try to save this kid at the end of the day. Rebuttals, then you talk just then I want to just clearly tell you why we should still keep these moral values, even if it's the logical sense of medical needs. I'm not here to argue that it's some type of freedom of choice from the government. No, but it's something that every single person should keep because it's basic respect coming from the government. Basic respect should always be kept in our society, even if it's as to the extent where this person might die or will not. But we say that even if this is more logical. Here's a more logical side, even if you don't buy a moral side or moral argument of this debate, is that the doctors might make decisions heavily influenced by bias or biased by the company. The doctor might only suggest or choose the treatment which is the most expensive and makes the company the most profit. The doctor will choose what is the most profitable for the company because the company might offer them incentives or whatnot. Because this is also really lucky because the doctor is not really like emotionally attached with that patient, meaning that they will not choose the best treatment but the most expensive treatment or the best treatment for themselves or their own good. The government side still to this point, refuses or doesn't engage to the point how doctors could also be biased at the end of the day. Yes.
Isn't it the case that a child's right to life and death should outweigh the parent's right to autonomy in decisions that can permanently harm the child?
Okay, let me just tell you something. If you're a parent and you had a child and you really truly love them, do you really think you will make religion go over like your love for that child for them to live at the end of the day? Obviously not, right? But then even if we say that they do, that's only really minority of the cases. Only like a really minority of the cases or really minority of people are really that religious to let their child go. But in a instance where the doctor wants to put this terminal ill child on life support, then it's bad for the child because they have to suffer every single day. While morally, the parents want to let go of the life support because they know that it'll make their child suffer at the end of the day. But also, I want to answer that POA in one more statement that the parents know their child the best and what is the best for the child. Then third argument about how medical expertise doesn't always equal the best decisions for the child and family. Judge medical professors such as doctors are trained to make clinical decisions based on what is clinically correct, but sometimes that's just not what's correct for the family. Families might make decisions based on their values. But doctors are trained to make more medical decisions based on prolonged life or a professional decision. But sometimes this is just not really the correct decision for different families. Whether that be because it goes against all their values, their religions, or just their ethical decision and that they want to make for their child or minor, or decision being biased and doing what's best for profit and for that company from the doctor. Reasoning here that firstly, on how different religions can affect a medical decision. For example, Jehovah's Witnesses who refuse blood transfusion. Doctors would not care about this medical constraint that they have, but go against their values. Make sure that the child has medical blood transfusion, but not because this is what they need to survive, but because the doctor is trained that this is a perfect clinical decision, and this is. There's always other alternatives for different treatments. So what the government says about the child dying is just like really extreme and just not true at the end of the day. But an example of how moral values might go against medical treatment is that the doctor might want to keep a terminal ill child on life support, but the family's values is to let them go peacefully and not make them suffer every day in their life on the life support. So proud to oppose.
Moving on to reframing the debate and clarifying the metric. Throughout this debate, both sides have agreed that the ultimate priority in the question of minors' medical treatment is the protection of the child's welfare. We all recognize that children deserve care and safety and the best possible chance at a healthy life. However, the crucial question is who should hold the final authority in making these life-defining medical decisions. The parents who love and raise the child, or the medical professionals who possess the knowledge, training, and ethical obligation to preserve life. Our branch has consistently demonstrated that the final say must rest with medical professionals. This position position is just justified on two primary grounds. First, it is the most rational and ethically consistent method of ensuring that the child's welfare is objectively prioritized, and second, it is feasible and accountable, grounded in existing medical frameworks and ethical standards. In contrast, the opposition has relied heavily on emotional appeals about parental love, moral autonomy, and family integrity. While these values are still important, they cannot override the objective principle that decisions concerning medical science must be made by experts, especially when the patient in question is incapable of fully understanding the risks, consequences, or long-term implications of the treatment. Moving on to my first clash about expertise versus emotion. Who best actually protects the child's welfare? This clash revolves around who is best equipped to act in the child's genuine interest. The opposition's claim is that parents know their children best and therefore should have the authority to decide. However, knowing a child emotionally is not the same as knowing how to preserve their life medically. The world we live in today is filled with misinformation, social media movements that reject vaccines, myths about cancer treatments, and fear-driven opposition to necessary medical procedures. Even the most loving parents can fall victims to these forces. Medical professionals, on the other hand, base their decisions on evidence, scientific consensus, and ethical review. They operate in teams, consult peers, and follow protocols designed precisely to minimize human error. This collective expertise ensures that every decision, especially life or death ones, is supported by the best available knowledge. Let's take an example. A child is diagnosed with cancer. The doctors recommend some kind of medicine, a painful but life-saving treatment. The parents, however, reject it due to their religious beliefs or fear of suffering. In the optional world, that child dies from a preventable disease. In ours, that child lives because a trained professional actually intervened in that situation when emotional reasoning led to irreversible harm. Also, knowing a child emotionally is not the same as understanding medical science. When we raised our POI, the opposition's DLO has stated that the parents know best, and then that is gonna solve everything, and like it outweighs the benefit of how children might die. However, parents may know their child's personality, fears, and habits, but that knowledge doesn't translate into understanding complex medical information. And medicine is not about affection; it's about evidence training and risk calculation. Moving on to my second clash about rights, justice, and long-term protection. Both sides agree that the ultimate goal is to protect minors. The disagreement lies in how that protection is actually best achieved. The opposition's model gives parents unchecked authority under the assumption that their moral framework and emotional investment are sufficient safeguards. But history and experience show otherwise. There are numerous documented cases of children dying from treatable illnesses because their parents refused medical care due to faith or misinformation. There are countless minors forced to endure unnecessary suffering because their parents distrusted doctors or prefer natural remedies. Our side actually believes that a child's right to health and life must supersede the parents' right to control. This principle is already reflected in international law, such as the United Nations Convention to the Rights of Child, which emphasizes the state's responsibility to intervene when parental decisions are detrimental to a child's well-being. When a medical professional have the final say, we create a system grounded in accountability. So doctors must justify every decision through medical reasoning, documentation, and institutional oversight. The conclusion and weighing at the end of this debate, the weighing is clear. The opposition would rely on emotion, tradition, and faith, elements that, while noble, are inconsistent and subjective. Our role is grounded in fairness, science, and accountability. The state and its doctor act not out of arrogance, but out of duty to protect those who cannot yet protect themselves. We have proven to you that it is right for medical professionals to have a final say because only they possess the knowledge, training, and ethical framework necessary to act in the child's best interest. That's why we take both clashes home. So proud to propose.
Judge Durzai keeps on stating that the best decision is the scientifically proven one, and the government said won't tell us why this will happen in the first place, because different best decisions for different families might be based on their moral adjudication order or their ethical education with their family values. We don't get why scientifically proven decisions are always the best decisions for every single case of the child. Obviously, we understand that the children deserve the right to life, but it's likely that the children are just still terminally ill, which means that our side would be better for the child. So now I'll move on to my first clash, which is who best protects the overall welfare of the child, the doctors or the parents. The government states that the doctors have the medical knowledge to make rational evidence based on decisions that are free from emotion or bias or whatsoever. However, we believe that the doctors have the medical knowledge, while the doctors have the medical knowledge to make rational evidence based on decisions, the parents are the best ones that know the whole welfare of the child, not just their physical survival, but also their emotional, cultural, moral, and their psychological well-being. While a doctor might know the best treatment for a disease, a parent knows the child's fears, comfort, and the family context that makes healing possible. A doctor doesn't know about the past experiences that the child has experienced and about what certain medical treatments that the minor might think that's like bad, and it might destroy the security, identity, and faith of the child. So moving on to my first layer, why is the best medical procedure not the best for the child? The best medical procedure is about survival or physical recovery of the child, but we believe that the child's overall well-being, which includes their emotional and psychological comfort and their sense of security and trust and spiritual identity, and their family relationships rejected and values are way more important than this one decision that the doctor gets to take over, and the family has no say in what the child decision is. For example, a doctor might recommend a risky surgery that could lead to the child feeling uncomfortable or the parents having to take care of the child at home. The procedure would cause immense pain, isolation, and trauma, which means that the doctor which means that if the doctor can make this decision rejected, and they would not know that the child is very sensitive about their pain, which would mean that the freedom of choice of the body of the minor would not be respected. Judge, think about it. Imagine that you had many different ways you could go to with medical procedures, but the doctor has the final say, and you cannot choose that one procedure that makes it make you feel better, even though it's slower than the procedure that the doctor recommends. It will actually be better for the child because they will feel more comfortable. So why is this important? If the doctor makes all of the major decisions later on in the family might even lose trust in the healthcare system, which means that the parents might start avoiding doctors altogether, which will lead to worse outcomes for the children in the future. So now I'll move on to my second clash, which is who should even have the moral authority over the minor's body. So first layer, should it be about knowledge or about moral rights? We believe that moral ownership is very important because while doctors have medical expertise, parents have the moral authority, which means that they have the right to make choices as a lifelong responsibility to their minors. Obviously, it doesn't mean that our side would be not listening to any medical advice or whatsoever, because the parents will obviously listen to what the doctor has to say and what the decision would be best and decide from gathering all the aspects of the child, make the right decision that will be comfortable for the child. So we believe that families have moral authority because parents are the ones who are responsible for raising the child and teaching them the values and guiding them throughout their adulthood. We believe that it is legally and morally accountable for the outcomes of their decisions, and also because the moral authority comes from knowing the child as a whole person, and I'm proud to oppose.
To live in a world where families can also have a say in their child's medical treatment, and also while also considering the doctor's recommendations. So now going to clarification, the other side for the whole debate assumed that we don't really consider the doctoral recommendations. So we stated from the get-go of the debate that this is considered, yet the final decision is just held by the family. The metric of this debate was based on the principle that decision-making over a minor's health should respect both medical advice and the family's authority and understanding of the child. With this metric, we take the debate home. Our approach balances medical expertise with family authority and understanding of the child. And this ensures that decisions are not only clinically sound, but also emotionally and ethically appropriate, which is something that proposition cannot guarantee in their world. In protecting the child's holistic well-being, our side clearly achieved what this is really about. The other side continuously tells us about professionalism and how the child's life is so much more important than family. So as our deputy has stated, the child's life is so important that if families really love them, they choose their child's life over their religion. Unless they're too religious, you won't just kill the child and let them go. Sometimes also moral decisions are the best. For example, a doctor might want to put a terminal ill child into a life machine. However, the parents would know that this could cause the child to keep suffering over and over every day, while moral and ethical values will say to let them go peacefully. And no moral decisions are based on for good, not bad. And moving on to burdens of proof, the other side burden was to prove how doctors' professionalism is so important that it outweighs the thoughts of the people that know the child best and the thoughts of the people who are responsible for the patient. And our side's burden was to prove how the final decision-making power shows legal and moral responsibility and best interest. Why we prove their burden? Our argument shows that parents are uniquely positioned to make decisions that combine medical advice with the knowledge of child's personality, emotional state, and family context. Throughout this whole debate, we proved how the parents would be the ones that would be able to benefit the child best. And why they didn't prove their burden? Proposition relied on abstract professionalism but failed to show why it should override parental insight and legal responsibility. They ignore the importance of parental thought in the child's well-being. And the main clash was who benefits children more, and both sides were trying to make this the goal. Our side benefits the children. So the thing is, when parents can choose, they will choose what's best for the child, knowing their background, instead of forcing them into treatment and carrying out protocol regardless of resistance. Our side makes sure that the parents who prioritize the child's life helps the child heal best. Proud to oppose. Thank you.
At the first debate, both sides agree that children's welfare must always come first. The real question is, who can best protect their welfare when crucial life-changing medical decisions must be made? Parents will act from love, while doctors shall act from evidence and ethics. The opposition built their case on the idea that parental love guarantees the best outcomes. But our side has proven that love, while sincere, can cloud judgment. Parents are human. They fear pain, they hope for miracles, and they can be misled by misinformation or belief. Doctors share the same goal, to protect life, but they do it through training, peer consultation, and accountability. Both care, but only outward ensures decisions are guided by consistent personal expertise. First, on expertise versus emotion. Knowing a child's heart is not the same as knowing how to heal it. Parental care saves feelings, medical expertise saves lives. Second, on rights and justice. Parental rights are important, but a child's right to survive and grow outweighs them. A living, healthy child can one day make their own choices. A child denied cannot. Third, on trust. They see doctors alienate families. We set a model fosters cooperation. Doctors communicate parents' comfort and both work toward the same goal. This debate isn't about removing parents from the process. It's about what happens when emotion and evidence collide. The metric here is not who loves the child more. It's about who can decide more safely and rationally. Family autonomy is valuable, but it cannot come at the cost of a child's right to health. Sorry. In our model, parents remain essential. They provide comfort, more guidance, and emotional understanding of the child. But the final call belongs to doctors who interpret data, weigh risks, and are held accountable by ethical and legal standards. In the opposition's world, emotion decides. In ours, emotion informs, but evidence decides, and that is the only way to truly safeguard a child's best interest. Because love alone cannot save a life, but love guided by medical truth can. For the sake of safe dignity and future of every child, we are proud to stand with the government side. Thank you.